If Niccolo Machiavelli opened his eyes in 2026, he wouldn't panic at the machines. He wouldn't rage at artificial intelligence, surveillance cameras, or dopamine loops engineered into every screen you touch. He would laugh softly, not because the world is safe, but because it is exposed. Because never in history has humanity been so loudly predictable. Never has power been so poorly hidden behind noise. He would see a civilization obsessed with being seen, broadcasting every thought, confessing every weakness, turning private impulses into public data. And he would understand immediately, in a world where everyone is screaming to be noticed, the most dangerous position is silence. The man who disappears from the signal does not lose power. He concentrates it, like a blade hidden in a sleeve. Machiavelli would not be an influencer. He would not posture on LinkedIn with vulnerability threads or fight strangers in comment sections. He would not chase validation. He would become something far more unsettling. A quiet anomaly. A gap in the pattern. The kind of presence you feel before you can explain it. The kind of person who wins conflicts before they are declared, because others collapse under the weight of their own predictability. Most people believe the future belongs to visibility, to those with reach, metrics, followers, data. They believe power belongs to the loudest voice. That belief is a trap. In 2026, power belongs to the void. And today, you're going to step inside it. What follows is not self-help. It is not about happiness, productivity, or optimization. This is a survival doctrine for an age where your thoughts are predicted before you finish thinking them, where your desires are shaped before you feel them, where autonomy is quietly extracted through convenience. To survive here, intelligence is not enough. You must become strategically unreadable, not the Machiavelli of the Renaissance, but the Machiavelli of the digital dark age. The first transformation is this. You must starve the prediction. Machiavelli once observed that men are simple creatures, driven by immediate needs, endlessly exploitable by those who understand them. In 2026, the deceiver is no longer a prince. It is the algorithm. It knows what enrages you, what excites you, what frightens you, who you desire, who you resent. And it knows because you taught it, click by click, reaction by reaction. You are not watched. You are fed on. Every outrage you engage with sharpens your profile. Every argument you join tightens the leash. Every emotional spike trains the system to move you like a lab animal pressing a lever. Predictability is not innocence. It is exposure. Machiavelli's first move today would not be retreat. Deleting the internet is not rebellion, it is surrender. He would disrupt the pattern instead. He would become erratic by design. He would feed the system noise, contradiction, false trails. He would engage with things he despises, ignore what he loves, delay reactions, break rhythms, because when you cannot be profiled, you cannot be targeted. And when you cannot be targeted, you regain agency. This applies far beyond technology. Socially, predictability is a cage. People in 2026 are obsessed with classification. They want to label you, left or right, alpha or beta, rich or grinding, safe or dangerous. The moment they succeed, they stop respecting you. Because what is known is manageable. Machiavelli would refuse the box. One day he would dominate a room effortlessly, charismatic, centered, unignorable. The next, he would vanish, unreachable, cold, distant. He would quote philosophy in street-level chaos and speak street language in elite rooms, not to confuse, but to camouflage. This is not inconsistency. This is adaptive intelligence. When people cannot decode you, they obsess over you. They burn mental energy trying to map you, and while they are stuck analyzing your last move, you are already repositioning. In 2026, consistency is not integrity, it is automation. It makes you replaceable by AI and legible to enemies. You must become the glitch. Be the error message in their mental software. When they expect you to respond, you pause. When they expect aggression, you go silent. When they expect presence, you withdraw. Not dramatically, precisely, like smoke slipping through fingers. This is the beginning of real power. Not dominance through noise, but control through absence. Like gravity, felt most when you stop moving. And understand this clearly. Once you see the strings, you cannot unsee them. Once you recognize how prediction works, innocence is gone. Comfort evaporates. What replaces it is clarity. This clarity cuts, but it also frees. Because in the coming years, the system will only tighten. Surveillance will feel friendly. Manipulation will feel personalized. And the masses will mistake convenience for freedom. The man who survives is not the one who resists loudly, but the one who cannot be mapped. A ghost does not fight the machine. He becomes invisible to it. And that is where the real war begins. The second transformation is colder, harder, and for most people unbearable. You must learn weaponized apathy. We live inside an outrage economy. Every headline is engineered to provoke. Every platform is designed to bypass your reasoning mind and go straight for your nervous system. Anger is profitable. Offense is currency. Attention is harvested emotion. And most people are bleeding constantly without realizing they're being drained. Machiavelli would see this weakness instantly. He would see a population with no emotional armor, people who erupt when poked, who collapse when ignored, who confuse reaction with strength. He warned long ago that giving power to others is the fastest way to destroy yourself. In 2026, every reaction you give is a transfer of power. When someone provokes you and you respond emotionally, you fund their relevance, you validate their existence. You hand them control of the frame. You think you're defending yourself, but you're feeding them. The modern power move is not to win arguments. It is to feel nothing. This is the gray rock principle elevated to strategy. You become so emotionally flat, so unresponsive, so uninterested that manipulation has nowhere to land. Like rain hitting polished stone, it slides off without absorption. Picture a colleague trying to undermine you. They spread rumors. They provoke you in meetings. The old version of you would explain, defend, clarify, raise your voice. That version is gone. The Machiavellian version looks at them calmly, holds eye contact just a fraction too long, says nothing, then returns to work as if nothing happened. No defense, no counterattack, no justification. You treat them like background noise, like a pop-up ad. You don't argue with pop-up ads. You close them. This devastates people, because manipulators need your reaction to confirm their impact. When you deny them that confirmation, you erase them psychologically. In a culture addicted to attention, indifference is annihilation. Silence is not empty. It is dense, heavy, loaded. It forces others to project meaning into it, and what they project is fear. Let them exhaust themselves chasing a response. Let them spiral. And when they finally break, when they beg for acknowledgement, you give a brief, controlled smile and walk away. Apathy is not weakness. It is emotional judo. Now comes the third transformation, the synthetic mirror. Understand this clearly. 2026 is the age of narcissism. Everyone believes they are the protagonist. Social media trained humanity to perform rather than connect. People don't want understanding. They want an audience. Machiavelli would exploit this mercilessly. He would never lead with his story, never showcase his achievements. He knows nobody truly cares. Instead, he would reflect people back to themselves, but perfected, idealized, amplified. If a man believes he is a genius, you don't challenge him. You ask questions that let him perform brilliance. You give him space to lecture, to shine, to preen. You become the surface his ego reflects off. Why? Because people don't bond with those they admire. They bond with those who make them feel admired. Once someone sees their ideal self reflected in your attention, they become dependent on you. They don't love you. They love who they get to be around you. This is the difference between loyalty and addiction. Machiavelli understood appearances shape power. Few ever experience who you truly are, and that is your advantage. In 2026, you must customize your presence like interface design. With an insecure superior, you are respectful, slightly understated, dependable. With a chaotic partner, you are grounded and calm. With a rebel, you are a quiet co-conspirator. You shift, not because you are fake, but because rigidity is death. While they admire themselves in the mirror you provide, you are studying them, mapping insecurities, noting triggers, logging vanities. You gather data silently. Most people try to break walls with force. The mirror walks through the front door invited. Then comes the fourth transformation: invisible hands. In the digital age, fingerprints never disappear. Public attacks are amateur mistakes. Reputation destruction is permanent and traceable. Machiavelli warned rulers never to perform unpopular acts themselves. You do not swing the blade. You guide the hand that does. If a rival needs removal, you don't accuse. You plant concern. A quiet comment. A seed of doubt. Framed as empathy. Then you step back. You let systems, gossip, incentives, and algorithms do the work. When the blow lands, you are clean, supportive, present, offering comfort. You are never associated with the damage, only the aftermath. This creates a chilling aura. People notice that crossing you leads to consequences, but they can never prove it was you. Suspicion is more powerful than threats. Visible danger invites challenge. Invisible danger breeds obedience. Become the curse, not the executioner. And finally, the fifth transformation in this phase: the black box. We live under the illusion of transparency. People live stream their breakdowns, share locations, broadcast intentions. They mistake exposure for authenticity. Machiavelli would be repulsed. Information is leverage. When you give it away freely, you disarm yourself. In 2026, you must become informationally asymmetrical. You listen more than you speak. You absorb more than you reveal. When asked what you're working on, you say, "A few things." When asked about your plans, you smile and redirect. You let others talk themselves empty. You become a black box. They input, you output. But the mechanism is hidden. This imbalance creates power. People project fantasies onto silence. They assume depth, resources, danger. Let them. Silence is a canvas. Others paint their fears on it. Do not correct them. Do not clarify, because the man who reveals nothing forces others to approach carefully. In a world made of glass houses, the one who lives in a bunker rules. And now, you're starting to feel it. The shift, the discomfort, the sense that this knowledge is stripping something away. Good. That's the old programming dying, and what replaces it is far more dangerous. Now we move into the territory where most people fail, because it requires discipline, not intelligence. The sixth transformation is artificial empathy. There is a lazy myth that Machiavellian strategy is cold, robotic, emotionally dead. That is beginner thinking. A machine is easy to detect, easy to isolate, easy to label as a threat. The true operator is warm, human, disarming. But understand this clearly. In 2026, empathy is no longer an emotion. It is an instrument. Machiavelli understood that a ruler must master both the beast and the man. Today, that means understanding emotions better than the people who are drowning in them, without being infected by them. Most people feel emotions and lose agency. You will observe emotions and gain leverage. When someone cries, you don't collapse into sympathy. You analyze. Why are they crying? What outcome do they want? What words will stabilize them? What response will bind them closer? You simulate concern with precision. When a team panics, you mirror just enough anxiety to appear aligned, while your inner state remains flat. Your heart rate stays steady. Your voice slows. In chaos, stillness reads as leadership. This detachment allows surgical movement while others thrash. You don't speak honestly. You speak optimally. You say what disarms, not what confesses. I understand how you feel. You're right to be frustrated. I've never met anyone who sees this as clearly as you do. These are not lies. They are keys. They unlock trust reflexively, but never forget, this is a performance. The moment you believe your own act, you lose the advantage. You must remain the observer behind the glass. Empathy is the scope, not the trigger. The seventh transformation is subtler and far more deceptive. Weaponized imperfection. In a world flooded with AI-generated perfection, flawlessness signals danger. We instinctively distrust what looks too clean, too curated, too smooth. Machiavelli would exploit this instinct. To be trusted, you must appear human. To appear human, you must appear flawed, not broken, not weak, selectively imperfect. You display a harmless vice, a minor weakness, something that costs you nothing but buys you credibility. Maybe you're bad with technology. Maybe you complain about cold coffee. Maybe you admit discomfort with public speaking. Why does this work? First, it lowers defenses. People relax around imperfection. They stop guarding themselves. Second, and more importantly, it gives others a false sense of superiority. They feel helpful, capable, above you in that narrow domain. While they focus on the crack in your armor, they never notice the blade hidden beneath it. An invincible man invites attack. A slightly flawed one invites protection. Sympathy is safer than admiration. Let them see the scuff on the shield, so they never look for the knife in your boot. The eighth transformation shifts the terrain entirely. Dopamine control. In 2026, time is not money. Time is chemistry. People are addicted to immediacy. Read receipts, typing indicators, notification sounds. They panic when feedback loops break. Machiavelli would recognize the smartphone for what it is, a leash, and he would hold the handle. You must never respond on demand. You respond on your schedule, not out of busyness, but out of strategy. When someone sends a message loaded with urgency, you wait. Hours pass. Their mind starts working for you. Doubt creeps in. Anxiety blooms. Did I say something wrong? Did I lose status? Why hasn't he replied? Then calmly you respond. Brief, warm, controlled. The relief they feel is chemical. Dopamine floods. Your attention becomes the reward. Over time, they associate your presence with emotional regulation. You have conditioned them. This is lethal in negotiation, addictive in romance, dominant in hierarchy. The one who waits holds power. The one who demands immediacy is enslaved by it. Break rhythms. Delay gratification. In an instant world, patience feels godlike. The ninth transformation is darker. The necessary monster. Machiavelli knew that unity is rarely built on love. It is built on fear, specifically fear of a shared enemy. People are fragmented, lonely, desperate to belong. Give them a threat, and they will bond instantly. To lead, you don't need to be the monster. You need to point at one. Identify an external force that threatens the group. Competition. Ideology. The system. Reality matters less than perception. Survival overrides logic. Under threat, people stop questioning. They seek protection. They surrender nuance. You become the shield, the authority, the center. Every major movement in 2026 runs on this mechanic. Appeal to logic and you lose. Appeal to survival and you win. Find the monster or manufacture it and offer the sword. The 10th transformation is surgical. Compliment before you crush. Amateurs signal hostility early. They posture, sneer, telegraph intent. This gives enemies time to prepare. Machiavelli despised this stupidity. If you plan to remove someone professionally, socially, strategically, you treat them better than ever beforehand. You praise. You agree. You reassure. A man who feels safe leaves his gates open. Then the strike comes, clean, final, total. Machiavelli warned that injuries must be decisive, so vengeance is impossible. The blow should feel sudden, almost surreal. Yesterday you were smiling together. Today it's over. This is not cruelty. It is efficiency. A long war destroys both sides. A swift end preserves power. Never reveal teeth until the bite is finished. At this point, something should be happening inside you. Resistance, unease, recognition. That is the mind unlocking. And we are not done yet. Now we enter the domain where reality itself becomes pliable. The 11th transformation is frame domination. In 2026, truth is no longer fixed. Deep fakes blur memory. AI rewrites narratives in real time. Conflicting versions of events coexist without resolution. Most people don't know what's real anymore, and that makes them desperate for someone who sounds certain. Machiavelli would not complain about this. He would author it. Understand this. People do not remember facts. They remember emotional conclusions. They remember how you made them feel about what happened. Whoever controls the frame controls the memory, and whoever controls memory controls reality. If you make a mistake, you do not confess weakness. You recontextualize strength. You didn't miss the deadline. You delayed to protect standards. You're not blunt. You're decisive. You're not wrong. You're operating at a higher level of perspective. Say it calmly, slowly, with eye contact, without defensiveness. Most people will doubt their own recollection before they challenge your certainty. Weak frames collapse under pressure. Strong frames bend others. This is not lying. This is authorship. If you don't define the story of your life, someone else will. Usually in a way that makes you smaller. Write your own narrative or be written out of relevance. The 12th transformation is radical, and it terrifies people who cling to identity. Kill your fixed self. Modern culture worships authenticity. Find yourself. Be true to who you are. Machiavelli would call this a trap. Identity is rigidity. Rigidity breaks under pressure. A fluid man survives. You are not the nice one. You are not the tough one. You are not the moral one. These are costumes, not truths. Be what the moment requires. When listening is power, you disappear into silence. When command is required, you speak once and end the discussion. When foolishness disarms, you play the fool. This is not emptiness. It is adaptability. The world shifts daily. Laws, taboos, incentives, technologies. Those who cling to identity die with it. The dinosaurs were authentic. The mammals were adaptive. Change opinions when they stop serving you. Change alliances when they become liabilities. Loyalty to a sinking structure is not honor. It is suicide. Machiavelli's question was brutal and timeless. Do you want to be right and dead, or flexible and alive? And now, the final transformation. The one that underlies all the others. Outcome supremacy. The world judges only results. Not effort, not intention, not morality. Did you win or did you lose? Machiavelli's most misunderstood idea was never about cruelty. It was about preservation. History forgives methods when outcomes secure order, safety, and power. The rules you were taught were written by those already in control, to keep you compliant. The powerful do not obey rules. They edit them. If you must lie to protect your family, you lie. If you must manipulate to secure resources, you manipulate. If you must be ruthless to secure freedom, you cut clean. This is not evil. It is effectiveness. In the coming years, the distance between winners and losers will widen into a canyon. The winners will not be kinder. They will be clearer. The losers will cling to politeness as the system devours them. Machiavelli never asked you to abandon humanity. He asked you to stop being defenseless. You do not learn the sword to become a murderer. You learn it so you are not helpless when violence arrives. The systems of control are tightening. Algorithms have no empathy. Surveillance has no mercy. If you want sovereignty, you must carry fire and understand that fire both illuminates and burns. Use these rules not to destroy, but to protect. To carve space where you are not a product, not a data point, not prey, but a sovereign actor. Machiavelli did not write for kings. He wrote for the man who intended to take power back. And now you've seen enough to understand this truth. You cannot unsee it. The final choice is yours. Now comes the moment most people quietly avoid. The moment where understanding turns into responsibility. Because once you've seen how the game works, you are no longer innocent. You are no longer allowed the comfort of pretending ignorance. What you do next determines whether this knowledge sharpens you or rots you from the inside. You may feel resistance rising, a tightening in the chest, a voice whispering, "This feels manipulative. This feels dark. I just want to be a good person." Good. That voice is not weakness. It is your humanity testing the blade. Machiavelli never asked you to silence that voice. He asked you to stop letting it disarm you. You do not learn strategy to become a predator. You learn it so predators cannot use you. You do not master darkness to worship it, but to walk through it without being consumed. A man without a sword is not peaceful. He is harmless. And harmless men do not survive hostile terrain. Look around you. The systems shaping your life are not moral. Algorithms do not care about fairness. Markets do not reward virtue. Bureaucracies do not protect the naive. The world of 2026 does not respond to goodness. It responds to leverage. If you refuse to understand this, you do not become noble. You become expendable. And here is the final awakening. Power does not come from domination over others. It comes from command over yourself. Every rule you've heard is not about controlling people. It is about reclaiming authorship of your reactions, your energy, your attention, your presence. About no longer being dragged by impulses engineered by others. About stepping out of predictability. The system feeds on reflex. You starve it with intention. The crowd moves on emotion. You move on timing. They react. You calculate. This is what sovereignty feels like. Quiet, grounded, heavy. Not loud confidence, but stillness that unsettles. You will notice changes. People will test you when you stop explaining. They will push when you stop reacting. They will accuse you of changing when you stop being accessible. That is not a sign you are wrong. It is proof the old version of you was useful to them. Expect discomfort. Expect solitude. Power always costs comfort up front. The obedient version of you will protest. It will crave approval. It will urge you to smooth things over, to be understood, to be liked again. Let that version die with dignity, because what replaces it is something far rarer. A man whose silence carries weight. A man whose presence is intentional. A man who cannot be rushed, baited, or mapped. Such men are not common. That's why they are feared. Not feared because they are cruel, but because they are no longer controllable. Understand this clearly. You do not need to apply every rule constantly. Power is contextual. Strategy is situational. The mistake amateurs make is turning methods into identity. You are not becoming a caricature. You are building a toolkit. Sometimes you will be warm. Sometimes you will withdraw. Sometimes you will mirror. Sometimes you will vanish. The mastery is knowing when. And this is where most people fail. Not because they are incapable, but because they are impatient. They want results before discipline is internalized. They want influence without restraint. They want power without solitude. Machiavelli would warn you here. Impatience exposes intention, and exposed intention invites resistance. Move quietly, apply selectively, let outcomes speak. You do not announce your transformation. You do not explain it. You allow others to feel it gradually, like a temperature drop in a room they cannot explain. And one day, you will notice something subtle. People hesitate around you. They choose their words more carefully. They stop assuming access. They stop taking liberties. Not because you demanded respect, but because your presence now carries consequence. This is the paradox. The less you chase control, the more it finds you. The less you speak, the more your words matter. The less you react, the more others reveal themselves. And then you will understand the final truth Machiavelli buried beneath centuries of misinterpretation. Power is not loud. It is patient. It is not emotional. It is precise. It does not rush to prove itself. It waits until resistance collapses under its own weight. You are standing at a threshold. You can return to the comfort of being predictable, liked, visible, manageable. Or you can step forward into strategic obscurity, where freedom lives. Not freedom from rules, but freedom from manipulation. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from being owned. The world does not need more loud men. It fears the quiet ones who see clearly. So, take this with you. Be harder to read. Be slower to react. Be rarer in presence. Be ruthless with your attention. Not to dominate the world, but to reclaim yourself from it. Because the ultimate victory is not controlling others. It is becoming ungovernable. And once you cross that line, you never go back. This is where it ends, and where it truly begins. You've just walked through ideas most people will never touch, not because they are incapable, but because they are unwilling. Unwilling to give up the comfort of being predictable. Unwilling to accept that the world rewards leverage, not innocence. Unwilling to look at power without flinching. What you take from this is not a set of tricks. It's a shift in posture, from reaction to calculation, from noise to presence, from exposure to control. You are not being asked to become cruel. You are being asked to become awake. Awake to how attention is stolen. Awake to how emotion is farmed. Awake to how easily good intentions are turned into chains. From this moment forward, your silence has meaning. Your timing has weight. Your absence creates pressure. You no longer rush to be understood. You no longer explain yourself into weakness. You move with intent and let others adjust. Some will feel unsettled around you. Others will project stories. Let them. Power grows best in ambiguity. You don't correct perceptions, you observe them.